Hi guys, Velvet here. Just would like to take a couple minutes and share with you guys my testimony. Um, yeah. So I actually grew up from the age of 0 to 8 in a little town in Abbotsford, in British Columbia called Abbotsford. I was the youngest of 7 kids, and when I was actually 6 weeks old, my father passed away, leaving my mom widowed with 7 children. And that was a wild start to my life because that impacted the rest of it. And as much as at the time I think my family was grieving, and obviously I didn't understand what was going on, I think it's really cool because God actually took that and He turned our lives into this like orchestra of amazingness. And now it's something that we can actually use and share, right? So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I was the youngest of 7 kids. My mom was now widowed with those 7 kids. And 2 years later, she actually lost her father. So our grandfather also passed away. So pretty much all the male role models in my life, except for 1 or 2, who maybe weren't role models, actually passed away. So I think that caused me to grow up really fast, and that can be harmful to a child, I think. But what's really cool is God used those circumstances and orchestrated the most amazing thing. So as I was saying, we lived in British Columbia, and a lot of chaos happened. Don't need to know about everything. But my mom ended up going on a website, for like a dating site, and found this man that was also a widower with 7 kids. And she was like, "This has to be a joke." She's like, "That's exactly my story." And he actually saw her profile. She saw his, and they were like, like you got to talk to each other. It's the exact same situation, like same number of kids, just a wild situation. So they got talking and developed a friendship that in turn turned into a relationship. And for some wild reason, this man was willing to take in 7 more kids into his home. So when I was 8, they got married, and me and 3 of my older siblings, but not the oldest siblings, moved out to Nova Scotia. So I, being 8, had a fairly good understanding of what I was leaving behind, and very scared of the fact that I would be living with 7 new strangers, and I would have to call them my siblings, and I'd have to get along with them. We met each other once before living together, and that was fun. We got along fairly well, except there was some fights and other drama, but my mom and Glenn were crazy enough to be like, "Okay, let's do this." So I actually, when I was 8, me and then 3 of my older siblings, we moved to live in a house with these strangers. And it was weird at first because I was like, do I need to start calling this man dad? I'd never called anybody dad in my life. I didn't understand why there was maybe some tension between my step siblings and my mom. I was like, she's a great lady. Like, what's going on? Why do you guys not like her? But obviously they were still grieving their mother, as my older siblings were grieving their lost friends, and there was just like this whole uproar and like, what's going on? But we somehow made it work, and we all got along, and there was 10 of us in the house, and my mom and my stepdad. And I think the biggest thing that kind of held me back was the fact of like my siblings always liked to play jokes on me because I was the youngest. They were like, "You have to call him dad," and I, for some reason, was really shaken up by that. I was like, I've never called anybody dad in my life. Like, how can I start? Even like grandpa. Like, I had a grandfather on my dad's side, but we called him Opa. And he was the only like grandfather or father figure that I had. And his name was Opa. And like, obviously I'm not going to call Glenn Opa. And yeah, it was just weird for me. I was like, I broke down and started like crying. I was like, I can't call this man dad. I think I tried once and I like bawled in front of him. But just like the whole idea of like my father and him being my father really shook me. I used to ask my mom questions, or want to ask my mom questions about like what my dad was like and what my grandfather was like. But every time I did, I would literally start bawling. And she's like, what do you want to ask? Like, what are you getting at? And all I wanted to be like is just like, tell me about who he was. Like, what traits of mine do I have that are his? Like, what's going on? Why did these circumstances happen? Like, why did I not get to know him? But I honestly, like, the words would not leave my mouth. I'd be like, and then I just would be like, never mind, cry and like leave. And she'd probably like, wow, I was such a weird child. But it just like, it was something that was in my person. Like, I would hear my siblings tell stories about him and it would break me. I was like, why did I not get to know him? But I think what clicked is like Glenn, my stepdad, was a huge role in my life. He literally took in 7 random stranger kids. Well, we weren't strangers, he'd met us, but 7 kids, and he's like, I guess I can help raise these kids. And we weren't like that old. Well, sorry, he took in 4 of us, but still, you take one, you take them all. So he was willing to allow these 4 kids into his house and to love us as though we were part of his family. And that really shook me. Not at first, but as I got older, I was like, this guy is so selfless. What the heck? Who does that? And then we'd always grown up in church, but something clicked for me at church. There was all these verses about God being our Heavenly Father and all this stuff. And I was like, hold up. I have been grieving my whole life about never having a father. But the reality of it is that God's always been my father. And he actually, through his word, he promises me that I'm gonna see my loved ones again, that I will I'll be part of that family. And I think that was just a tipping point for me, that I realized that. I was like, well, this is really cool, because little did I know, my whole life I've been held by this God that loves me, and that I'm actually his child. And though I have an earthly father who I never knew, I have a stepfather that turns out is the most amazing man you'd ever meet, and still to this day continues to love me as his own. And I have a heavenly father that no matter how much I mess up, he's still willing to take me in, and he's still willing to love me despite my sin, as long as I'm willing to come to him and be like, look, I messed up and I'm going to continue to mess up, and I know that the only way out of this is to just trust in you. And God is so quick to just wrap his arms around us and to say, yes, I forgive you and I love you, be mine. And even when we have those interactions and then sometimes we pull away from God and say I don't want to deal with you right now or stuff, he's still waiting for us. And I think that is so amazing. And I just pray that that's something that you guys can all realize. Yeah.